We really are blessed, aren't we, here in the bush capital, Canberra, to have so many marvellous walks around our lakes, in the mountains, even just in the suburbs. So much beauty in the suburbs, and many of us really experienced that, didn't we, in the COVID lockdowns, even in 5 kilometre radius. It's amazing the beauty you could find where you live. And there are so many different reasons why we walk, from fitness to mental health. And I wonder if you would like, or whether you might need, a bit of an excuse to get off the couch and go for a walk. Not just any walk, a long walk, say 20 kilometres, 30 kilometres. My next guest might be able to offer you a little bit of inspiration. Yuma, and welcome to Di Westaway.
Thank you so much, Adie. It's lovely to be here.
Di, tell me about your early years growing up in Canberra.
Oh, well, I was a Downer primary girl, grew up in Downer. My dad worked for the CSIRO, rode his bike to work every day along the beautiful bike trails of Canberra. Many, 40, 50, 60. Well, I'm 63 now, so it would have been 60 years ago. Had a wonderful childhood. I think it was idyllic in many ways. Went to Watson High. And then I went away to boarding school because I had an opportunity to train with an elite gymnastics coach at the time. But I did pop back in and go to what's now Canberra University for a little while to study phys ed. So I kind of popped back in, but my family are all still here. So,
including your mum, Barbara.
Yes.
Hi, Barbara, listening in Canberra. But you also landed a front page on the Canberra Times in 1977.
Oh, I did indeed. And it was a bit astonishing at the time because we know the Canberra Times is quite a hard news, or it was then, definitely a hard news publication. And to be splashed not just on the front cover, but the entire front cover is 3 enormous photographs of me. It was kind of like the highlight of my life, really. So it was as a result of me becoming the national gymnastics champion. And so, yeah, it's kind of like a little proud memento that lives on the wall in my hallway at home.
Did that passion for gymnastics continue through life, including about 20 years ago when you're a busy mother of 3?
Well, it faded for a while, but it did actually cause my direction to go in the area of physical education because it gave me a passion for physical activity. And initially I thought physical activity was all about my physical health and, you know, whether I looked good in a bikini or not. And I'm quite a big eater. So I kind of worked out that if I moved a lot, that I could probably eat more and eat a lot of gelato. So it was kind of all linked back. But I eventually realised actually that physical activity was more about my mental health. And that was my real discovery when I discovered hiking. As a working mother of 3, running myself ragged, as many mums do. I just got so much peace and joy when I was in nature and when I was walking with the girls. So, yeah, the hiking thing is as much about mental health as physical health.
Not just any hiking a major mountain in Argentina. That was a bit of a crucible moment for you, wasn't it?
It totally was. Yes, look, I was invited by, sort of out of the blue actually, by a friend's personal trainer, so it's quite a random connection. And I very impulsively said yes because I'd never climbed a mountain. I hadn't even been in a tent. I wasn't really an outdoor person because I was always doing gymnastics or dancing or something indoors. So it was quite a big thing. At the time, though, impulsive. I said, yes, why not? And then when I did a little bit of research, it was before the days of the internet and Google, and so I had to kind of look deeper, and I went to some of the gear shops and said, can you tell me a bit about this? And they were like, oh, this is an extreme mountain. I was like, oh, okay. So I had to get all this gear and all these fancy, bits of equipment, and my way of handling that fear was just don't think about it. Just do some training, lift some weights at the local surf club, run along the beach and go over there and see how you go. But I talked my best friend Andy into joining me, and we were both at a similar stage. I was married to an alcoholic at the time, and, her relationship was sort of crumbling a little bit. And so we were both like, let's just do something that we would never normally do, that is just so ridiculous. So we got a lot of criticism for the school tuck shop mums. They were all like, what are you doing that for? That sounds dangerous, and mums don't do that, and you should be staying home with your kids and all that. But we sort of pushed through because we both just needed a circuit breaker. We just, we knew we kind of had this feeling. So it became the classic life-changing adventure because we came back. We didn't get to the top of the mountain. We weren't skilled enough to do that or experienced enough. but we did get to over 6,500 metres, and we came back strong, although a bit of a failure because we told everyone we were going to take a photo from the top. But look, we both transformed both of our lives, and for me it led to me setting up a little group of women going out and hiking, putting the kids to bed on a Monday night, and we sort of all gathered in the Sydney Harbour, our nearest national park. In Canberra, it would be pretty easy. You've got lots of bush around, but yeah, we just took the nearest spot where we could get into nature. We put heavy backpacks on, and we just used to do pretty intense training to prepare ourselves for other adventures, and there was no end of those once we discovered one. So it was pretty fun.
Was that the genesis for your social enterprise, Wild Women on Top?
It totally was, yeah. No, it really was the birth of that. Because when I got back from my failed mountain climb, I was convinced there would be other women who felt the same as me, who just needed that bit of space. And it doesn't mean you don't love your family. It doesn't mean you're not devoted to your family and to your role as a mum and worker and all those good things. But I think sometimes we put ourselves last when we're mums, and that doesn't serve us in the end. So I found a few mums at the local school and a few friends and a few friends and friends of friends, got a little group of 8 together, and we started this training. So yeah, it was a very, it seemed to reach out to women.
So that was around 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Just how much have you raised through the social enterprise Wild Women on Top, as well as emboldening and encouraging women? How much have you raised for the charities that you've selected?
Well, we've raised nearly $50 million over that time, but the 15 years is actually when I started our Coastrek event. So there was a kind of a link there, and I realised I started with 8 women, and we kind of built that up. I got a few coaches, and we got to a group of around about 150 around Sydney. We even had a little group in Melbourne. But I was really frustrated because I wanted to scale it. I was like, this is really important stuff. Like, everyone needs to be out there doing this, and all women need to be out there doing this. This is way more fun than going into the gym and being on a sweaty machine. So through that frustration and desire to reach out to more women, I came up with this idea of doing a local walk. So rather than having to go overseas and climb Mount Kilimanjaro or doing one of the pilgrim trails, that we could do something close to home. And that was where Coastrek came about. And from the moment, the very first Coastrek, we did a little pilot event. From the moment we first did it, it just suddenly took on a life of its own. So that was the 15 years, and that was the 50 million.
And just how popular has it been?
Well, it's been hugely popular. Each year we did it in Sydney. We doubled the numbers, and we couldn't fit all the people in. And because myself and my friend who became my business partner we weren't experienced business people. We were fitness people. I had a little bit of experience as a journalist, so I sort of understood the storytelling piece. But we didn't have that experience, and we were quite nervous about making it big because we're like, we're taking people into nature in all weather, in potentially dangerous if you don't have the skills, where you can sprain an ankle or, trip off something, or, we were making them at the time walk 100 kilometres all day and all night. So it was a very big thing for us to increase the numbers in the early days. But, we learnt the hard way just by doing, and developed a risk management plan eventually, and kind of looked at how we could ensure that everybody would be supported in the way they needed to be. And, the rest is history, as they say.
I think it's really lovely that at a time like this, Westaway, when so many people are facing real challenges, cost of living challenges and other challenges financially in families, that you bring the event to the national capital, making it more accessible for more women, more people. Was that part of your inspiration to bring it back home to where you began?
Totally. Now, my mum won't like hearing this if she's listening, because my first taste of a charity walk was the Walk Against Want, and some people might remember that. It was probably the very original charity fundraising walk, and it was in Canberra, and I probably was 10 or 11, and I found out that the Walk Against Want was on a Sunday morning, and if I did it, I could get out of going to Sunday school. So it's like, Mum, I've got this really good idea, but I will have to miss Sunday school. And she was like, okay. So that was my first taste of a charity walk. So I just think it's really fun that, it's probably like 50 years later I've come back, to encourage Canberrans to do another charity walk and around the lake, because it's stunningly beautiful, and there's this lovely 30k circumnavigation of the lake, hopefully taking people to parts of the lake that they haven't seen ever, or if not, often. I think it's a really special thing to be back here to try and entice Canberrans to get fit, get moving, get together with their friends, dedicate a whole day to walking and talking. It's pretty exciting.
Most of us would be familiar with the Bridge to Bridge, the iconic walk around Lake Burley-Griffin, or see people doing it and enjoying it every weekend, particularly Saturday and Sunday mornings. But 30 kilometres? Talk to me about this route.
Yes, so the route is an anti-clockwise route. It starts at Lennox Gardens, and it was interesting because I popped in there the other day and someone was there going, I didn't know this was Lennox Gardens. So apparently there's not really clear signage, so many Canberrans might not even know where Lennox Gardens is, but there's like a little Chinese garden down there. It's just below the bridge on the Yarralumla side of the lake. So it's a very beautiful place. We're very excited to be starting and finishing in Lennox Gardens. And then you go anti-clockwise. You go out around over the dam wall, past the zoo, past the Arboretum, under Black Mountain, and then you continue all the way around via the Jerrabombera wetlands, which many people may not realise that it all links up now, past the cows and the pastures, around past the bird watching hides and all those little nooks and crannies that lots of lovely little water birds live down there, and you loop around along the Kingston foreshore, of course, and then wrap around back past the iconic bit you mentioned, the Bridge to Bridge, past Parliament House and all of those things, and then you hit Lennox Gardens again. And the 20k cuts across Kings Avenue Bridge. So for those that think the 30 sounds a bit daunting or don't fancy seeing the cows at Jerrabombera wetlands, you can just cut straight across and finish a bit sooner.
Di, what is the charitable focus for Canberra's inaugural Coastrek?
The charitable focus this year is going to be hiking for healthy hearts, and the hearts we're hiking for are those that are supported by the Heart Foundation. So the Australian Heart Foundation has been around since the 1960s. It's a really important foundation because it funds research and many groundbreaking researchers, and it funds programs, things to both teach people about the importance of heart health, what they can actually do to keep their heart healthy. Of course, hiking is one of the best things you can do, but also to fund that research for all the good stuff that, if you do get unlucky enough to have a heart attack or get heart disease and you're whisked away to the hospital, all the things that you get treated with there have, not all of the things, but many of those things have been supported by the research that is done by the Heart Foundation funds.
And of course, heart disease is still our leading cause of death in Australia. So just how much are you hoping to raise from the inaugural walk in March next year?
Well, I like a big, hairy, audacious goal, Adi. So
doesn't surprise me at all.
so I'm saying $1 million, but it really depends on how many people we can interest in doing the event. It is held on a Friday. It's on Friday, the 15th of March. So for those that can get their workplace to give them a philanthropic or charity day out of the office, there's not just opportunity to hike and to fundraise for the Heart Foundation, but also to do a 12-week training program for your own heart health. And also, if you can't walk, you can come and volunteer and cheer along your co-workmates and your fellow Canberrans as they take the challenge.
Di, what is your best advice around how to prepare? You've mentioned the 12-week training challenge. Is that enough?
Well, look, it all depends on what base you're starting from. So if you're starting from on the couch and you're listening to this and going, oh, there's no way I could ever do that, you're wrong, because actually anybody with two legs that move in the direction, if you can walk around the shopping centre, you can walk Coastrek. We provide you with a gentle step-by-step program. We like you to do something 3 times a week that involves walking. And if you're time squeezed, which most of us are, we suggest you throw a few stairs and hills in, because you could do half an hour on the stairs versus 1 hour on the flat, and you would get the same amount of benefit. And of course, when you puff, it's really good for your heart health. So we think a 12-week training program is ideal to take someone from couch to 20K, for example. If you were taking the 30K challenge, you might need to either start a bit earlier or be more fit when you start or work a bit harder in that time. But 12 weeks is a good thing to get your head around. You know, you've got to go out 3 times a week. You might have to get out of bed a bit earlier every now and again. We love you to train with your friends, so you might have to get your friends and family involved. You might have to do a big long walk on the weekend, walk around the lake, take the kids with you on the bikes.
And the dog.
And the dog, all that good stuff. So there's lots of ways to integrate the walking into a social activity or into something that you're already doing. But yeah, 12 weeks with a big walk on the weekend.
And of course, I'm imagining a real sense of exhilaration, a real sense of social connection, the unexpected when large groups of people come together that might not know each other.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we have a Coastrek ambassador who's one of Australia's top cardiologists, a lady called Nikki Bart, and she describes hiking as a magic pill. That can actually reduce your chances of getting heart disease, anxiety, depression, other mental illnesses, and other chronic diseases like diabetes by 50% or up to 50%. So hiking is an amazing thing because it covers off more than just physical activity. It covers off on connection, and we know human connection is so important for our heart health and our mental health and well-being. It also gives you an opportunity to do good for somebody else, and it puts you in nature. And so with the bush capital, having so much beautiful nature around, and where green nature meets blue nature is even more important for our health. So it really is a magic pill. We love that.
So Di, where can people go to find out more, to sign up, to get involved, to potentially be mentored through the 12-week training program if they're trying to get off the couch and into the 20K?
Yeah, great question. So if you go to our website, all you need to remember is the word Coastrek with one T. So yes, it's a made-up word, Coastrek, all one word, Coastrek. Just Google Coastrek and you'll find Coastrek and you'll find the Canberra event, and you might get excited by other events because we've got one in the Margaret River. So you get to have a girls' weekend, you get the wine, you get the whales, you get the wildflowers.
That sounds great.
The Fleurieu Peninsula is in the wine growing area. We're sort of trying to, I guess, get girls, well, get anybody really, because we welcome men and women. But it's interesting because women love what we do more than men. And I think it's because women love talking for 6 hours, without feeling guilty. It's like, I'm doing something for someone else, darling. That's why I'm going out for a walk for 6 hours. But it's the talking that's as important as the walking. So, yeah, we welcome men and women, all included. But, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Di, lovely meeting you. Congratulations on bringing your event to Canberra, back to the national capital, and very much looking forward to taking part with my Whippet next March.
Oh,
so, yeah,
fantastic.
Time to get off the couch and do more of that.
Amazing. Look forward to cheering you across the finishing line.
Thanks, Di.
Thanks, Adie.
Di Westaway talking to me about being strong of mind, having a big dream, and having, most of all, a wild heart. Hiking for Healthy Hearts in Canberra, the 15th of March next year, a date for the diary, 2024, a Friday. Perfect day, perhaps, to take a flexi day, or even better, make it part of your work day. We're hatching a plan here at ABC Canberra to send a team to the inaugural Coasttrek Canberra. How exciting. And congratulations for Di for bringing that event to the Canberra